Good morning and welcome to MOTH News Live. My name is Keith Walsh and we are live with you until midday. Maybe a little bit after midday because we're a little bit late starting, but let's say midday as a rough ballpark figure. I don't want any of you to take me to court because I lied to you. I don't start off the show that way, It's happened before, but let's not start off in bad terms. So let's have a look at this week's news and brief, because we have a big show ahead of us. We got some new characters on the MOTH set, which I'll introduce you to. One, when I say characters, I mean one particular character. We have a new reporter, basically. That's what I'm saying. News and brief. So I spoke to the father of Harvey Morrison Sherratt during the week. So the parents of Harvey, I spoke to his dad, Stephen. So Harvey was the young boy whose tragic death exposed the serious failures in children's healthcare. I spoke to them and they told me that they will meet with Simon Harris. Now, Simon Harris, I don't know if you remember, but when Harvey passed away, because he didn't get the medical attention that he needed, when Harvey passed away, there was a call for Simon Harris to step down, and the family got, and supporters of Harvey and the family, they got signatures. I think at the last count it was 40,000 signatures of people asking Simon Harris to step down. Simon Harris didn't really engage with it, hoped that it would go away. At one point, I think it was possibly the day after Harvey passed away, Simon Harris put up a picture of himself posing at the Oasis gig in Dublin, which a lot of people thought was a little bit, or a lot, a bad thing to do. And, not really, I mean, we're going to talk about autism later, but not being able to read the room, Simon, when a child has died and the parents are asking for your resignation, I would say don't put up a picture of yourself at an Oasis gig the next day. Because it'll look, knowing the way things are going, it's going to happen again. Just don't do that the next time, and maybe meet with family. Maybe try and make sure it doesn't happen again on your watch. So Stephen, Harvey's dad, said they're finally going to meet with Simon Harris. I hope he wears his Oasis bucket hat to the meeting. And hopefully they will. I mean, they are actually making waves, and I'll get to that in a moment. They're also going to meet with presidential candidate Catherine Connolly in an unofficial capacity. They're meeting her after they meet Simon Harris in the Dáil. They're going to walk across the road. They're going to meet Catherine Connolly. They're not saying that they're supporting her. The presidential race has just kicked off, really, but they're just interested in having a chat with her. And obviously keeping the story of Harvey alive, and making sure that he doesn't die just needlessly, like that there's something comes out of it for that family. Also, meanwhile, Connolly has faced some controversy. This is Catherine Connolly. She faced some controversy for past remarks referencing Hamas, but she does remain a serious contender in this presidential race. The Hamas thing was something she mentioned, and so it's been brought up again. And you can expect that a lot, because if we look at the three candidates in the presidential race, it's officially now a three-way contest. The candidates are Heather Humphreys for Fine Gael, Jim Gavin, the former Dublin GAA coach, running with Fianna Fáil. I think Dublin, under his stewardship, were the most successful team ever. I think they might have won 6 in a row All-Ireland finals, so pretty successful. I mean, he's a good coach. Is he a good president? Find out over the next few weeks. Catherine Connolly, who we spoke about earlier, she's going to be backed by Sinn Féin and left-wing parties. So early polls suggest Humphreys holds a slight lead, but Gavin's reputation outside politics could prove appealing, and Connolly is positioning herself as the grassroots anti-establishment candidate. So that's why you'd see somebody like, Harvey's mum and dad meeting with Catherine Connolly, because they're like, they've got issues with the CHI and all that's gone on for them and for their son, trying to get the help he needed. So let's look at the CHI. So the Children's Health Ireland is something we've spoken about, because we've spoken about the hip dysplasia. We've spoken about the testicular issues, where boys weren't getting the operations they needed to help their testicles descend, which meant that we're looking at a ticking time bomb when these kids reach their teens, 20s, early 20s, they want to have kids, and then they're told, well, actually, a consultant wasn't available that day to do the operation that we were doing naturally. We just kind of stopped doing it. And all of this stuff is coming down the road, and all of this is under the CHI. Now, the CHI, as far as I know, is pretty new. You got the CHI, Children's Health Ireland, you've got the hospital that they're building. You know, this hospital they're building, what's it after cost? I think it was going to cost a few $100,000. I mean, I think it might be running into the $2 billion now at this stage. Still isn't finished. This is the brand new children's hospital. And this is on the CHI. So what's happened with the CHI? There's a lot of shit coming down the track for the CHI, yeah? Loads. So people want answers, they want questions, they want transparency, they want to know what's happened. So what is the CHI doing? Oh, hang on, no, we've decided that by 2027, the CHI will be fully integrated into the HSE. So the CHI is going to be gone. So this is an organization that has done its job so badly that people are looking for answers. I spoke to Harvey's dad, and he said if they do a review, if they look into this, if they do investigate, it'll take 10 years to get to all the shit that's happened, and it's bad. So what are the government doing? Oh, we've just decided to integrate the CHI into the HSE. Sorry, the CHI came out of the HSE a few years ago. It was integrated. It was their big thing. They're going to go, no, we're going to take children's health away from the HSE, and we're going to look at that separately. And we're going to have this CEO over here, and we're going to build a children's hospital. It's going to be wonderful. Oh, hang on. It's not wonderful. It's really bad, and everybody involved is doing a really bad job. We've lost loads of money, and the hospital's going to cost $2 billion. All these people in France, we're integrating it. We're integrating it. You're closing it down. You're shutting it down because you don't want to give the answers that people want. And it's an absolute disgrace. And I mean, this word, oh no, we're integrated. Like, it was integrated. You unintegrated. You've separated them a few years, not that long ago. And it's such a bad job. You have to dissolve it and shut it down. This is more of the non-transparency. This is more of the like smoke and mirrors. Oh, look over here. Oh no, we've decided to do this. Oh no, integration is the way forward, guys. Come on, get with the program. I need to calm down. The new reporter Oscar will probably leave. We'll meet him in a second. So officials say that this will rebuild trust in the system. No. But critics warn it could simply dilute accountability, making it harder to hold anyone responsible for failures. That bingo. It's going to dilute accountability. It's going to make it harder to hold anyone responsible for failures. And we've seen it before, where the CEO of such and such has walked away because they've got a new CEO, and then they're saying, well, that's not my job anymore, so I don't need to answer those questions. So there's no accountability, and that's exactly what's happening again. And we talk about accountability, we talk about transparency, and once again, they're denying the families like Harvey's mom and dad the opportunity to get answers from the people in charge, because guess what? The CHI won't exist anymore. It's been integrated. Magic. The question is now, will this reform fix the system or just allow those in charge to escape scrutiny? Answers on the postcard, please, to, I don't know, just stick it in a bin. Doesn't really matter at this stage. Nothing matters. A new forum says on artificial intelligence will be launched this week, bringing together tech leaders, academics and policymakers. The government says it wants Ireland to be a global leader in safe and ethical AI. So that's kind of something that's coming up, and we will talk to Al about that when he joins us later on the show. And finally, small, medium-sized businesses in Ireland are holding back on investment despite low interest rates, rising costs, inflation and uncertainty. I mean, many firms are cautious even as headline GDP figures remain strong. So SMEs account for nearly 70% of jobs in the private sector. If they don't invest, jobs growth in an innovation risk stalling, leaving Ireland with a two-speed economy, multinationals booming while smaller businesses tread water. There's a reason why they're not being invested in. They're like, it just, the small to medium-sized enterprises are the beating heart of Ireland, and they're not being looked after, and the government are making it harder and harder and harder for them to do their jobs and to make money. And you know, there's all the other financial shenanigans going on that we will get to at some stage. Now, that's enough for me. That is your news and brief for this Friday. I want to bring in a new member to the MOTH team, our brand new journalist, Oscar Verdi. Oscar, welcome to MOTH. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Keith. Thanks so much for welcoming me here. So just a bit of background about me. Yeah. I'm a trauma-informed journalist.
First of all, yeah, I just want to, I admire your patience for just sitting there while I talked shit, basically. So you're a journalist. Are you fresh out of college?
No, so I graduated last year with a specialization in trauma-informed practice.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of where you're interviewing somebody who's a victim presenting the person as the whole person, not just as a victim of their experience.
I'm a victim.
What are you a victim of?
I'm a white Irishman, so I have a victim mentality.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back through history, kind of.
so you're going to be working with MOTH. Are you excited? What are you hoping to bring to the MOTH team? Some transparency, some facts, the truth.
I'm really looking forward to getting started with MOTH. I'm hoping to bring alongside facts, more information to the people. And also I'm hoping to present it in a way that the audience can make up their own minds. I'm not trying to give you guys an opinion. I'm just trying to say, here's the facts. You can draw your own opinion. Use your own intuition. I like you, Oscar, already.
So let's talk about Trump. Now, we're not telling you what to believe about Trump. You make up your own mind. We're just giving you the facts, isn't that right?
Definitely.
But you're gonna think Trump's a fucking idiot, basically, at the end of this. But we're not telling you to think that, but you will. You can't, and everybody involved. So tell us about Trump's latest discovery that isn't trying to deflect the mainstream media from talking about his friend Jeffrey Epstein and that file.
Yeah, so it's all basically getting to take attention away from the Epstein files. But anyway, on Monday, President Donald Trump has made the claim that taking paracetamol when you're a pregnant woman during your pregnancy term will cause autism. He's made the statement alongside the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And these guys have both routinely mumbled misinformation on the causes of autism.
When you say mumbled?
Yes, I say
they've
mumbled.
Said things quite clearly, haven't they? I mean, they're on the world stage and everyone's listening. Like, you really need, like, RFK or Trump mumbling,
If you listen to
you just speak very quietly.
With the way that they presented the information, like if you listen back to their recording, it's kind of like stammering, very stop-start, especially RFK Jr.
So they're kind of alluding to this possibly being a thing, but this is exactly what it's designed to do, because we're talking about it. We're not talking about the Epstein files, are we?
We can talk about the Epstein
files.
Well,
we don't want to get shut down, do we?
Yeah.
But so we're not talking. People aren't talking about the Epstein files. They're outraged at the fact that he might suggest, and it's putting the blame on mothers who took paracetamol are responsible for their children having autism, which is an absolutely disgustingly outrageous thing to say. From the women of America's point of view, from the women of the world. I have autism, late diagnosis. My own mother texted me during the week to say, whatever Trump is saying, I didn't take anything during my pregnancy. To which I replied, I'd be more interested in finding out what Trump's mother took when she was pregnant with him. That's the answer we need to find out, because that guy is absolutely doesn't.
Probably a lot of fake tanning.
Yeah, it was something orange.
Definitely
something orange. So tell us, I mean, apart from laying the blame of something that can't be caused, I presume, laying the blame on women, what's he saying then?
So basically, they're saying that if you take paracetamol during your pregnancy term, you'll get autism. So if we want to take a look back in time,
so your child will get autism.
Your child will get autism. If you want to take a little look back in time, this isn't the first time there have been false reports about medications causing autism. So, for example, in 1998, the Lancet published a paper written by a guy called Andrew Wakefield, a now disgraced researcher, who claimed that the MMR vaccine will cause autism. That paper has cost untold lives in itself. Because
the MMR, that's measles, mumps, rubella, yeah?
Yeah, measles, mumps, rubella.
And basically, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine was responsible for saving the lives of so many children around the world. And measles and mumps and rubella were kind of like, they didn't really exist anymore. Not many people got measles, mumps, or rubella. And if they did, it was only a very mild form. It wasn't killing any children or whatever. So it was a brilliant thing. The MMR vaccine was brilliant. This guy, Wakefield, now disgraced, came out with this paper. And it actually, I can remember at the time thinking, I had young children, and it definitely was something that people took seriously.
Yeah, and that's a real shame in itself, is that people took it seriously, because as you said yourself, that MMR vaccine saved untold lives. And those with the MMR, with measles, mumps, and rubella coming back in, especially in the States, you're starting to see more people having measles, more people dying from measles, all because they've gone for the anti-vax route. And that all the anti-vax myths of vaccines can cause autism comes from this guy, Robert Wakefield. And he's since he hasn't retracted the study himself. He's not said apologized publicly. Instead, the Lancet, the people who published the paper, in 2010, they've retracted it, and they said their editor, Richard Horton, told The Guardian, it was utterly clear, without any ambiguity at all, that the statements in the paper were utterly false, and I feel I was deceived. And I imagine that's what people are going to be saying in 5, 10, 20 years' time, is that if they stop taking paracetamol during the term of their pregnancy and still have their child have autism or not, they're still going to feel deceived because this is just completely made up.
Yeah, well, it is completely made up, is it? Yeah? Like, was you just pulled this out of
so we're going to go
thin air?
There is like some causal links, like causal relationships.
Yeah.
Potentially. Well, I'm going to get onto that in a moment. There's an amazing study that Sweden's done, which they did something like 2.4 million children over 10 years, I think it was.
It's great that countries like Sweden actually do reports and investigations before they before their president or their leaders make wildly inaccurate statements.
Yes, definitely. So I just want to talk a bit before about the international reaction worldwide. So it's not just us that have taken this as
gospel.
Gospel, like this is complete falsehoods.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah. So numerous autism charities have spoken out about these false claims. So if we look at Professor Andrew Whitehouse, an autism researcher from the Kids Research Institute in Australia, has told ABC News, there is categorically no evidence that paracetamol use during pregnancy causes autism. At best, this is a misreading of science. At worst, it is a misuse. And he also pointed out that untreated fever and pain during pregnancy can harm both mother and baby. So it's detrimental to not take paracetamol as advised by your medical health provider.
Yeah.
Professor Whitehouse isn't alone in his frustrations. Leading psychologists, pediatricians, and public health officials have spoken out to denounce these delusions, and they are delusions.
Yeah.
Professor Monique Bartha, a specialist in social and developmental psychology at Durham University, has told BBC News that this kind of fear-mongering could deter women from seeking appropriate care during pregnancy, a time that's already clouded with anxiety, caution, and clinical complexity. She stated there's no robust evidence to suggest any causal relationship between paracetamol use and autism, and added that the drug is a much safer pain relief option during pregnancy than basically any other alternative. And lastly, I just want to go on to Professor Claire Anderson, president of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, who joined the Chorus for Calm, noting that paracetamol use has been used safely by millions for decades, including during pregnancy. This isn't some sketchy new chemical. It's a staple in almost every medical.
Everybody takes paracetamol. Yeah.
Do you have paracetamol at home?
Absolutely.
When was the last time?
I have like 20 pills in my body right now. I can't function with it. No, I'm joking. I take paracetamol. I mean, I don't love taking things like paracetamol. I don't love taking things like, things with codeine in them. But like sometimes you're sick and you need a bit of pain relief, and like don't do it all the time. Don't take too many. But that's like anything. It's just sensible. And I mean, the thing about it is, it's the problem here is twofold, because what you're doing is, once again, women are to blame for something that obviously Donald Trump, as president of the US, and this RFK Jr., they clearly see autism as an issue, as a problem, as something wrong. Not just like people whose brains work slightly different than other people whose brains work slightly different. Is this like neurodiverse and neuro and normal, or whatever? Like, it's this idea that but also it's they've been quite clear about this. So they're blaming women, and then also women need pain relief when they're pregnant. So they're almost denying. Because I can imagine husbands across America and up and down the country like saying, well, you can't take paracetamol, like controlling women's ability to get pain relief. Do you know what I mean? So it's twofold. There's a big problem here. And once again, women are bearing the brunt of Mr. Trump's proclamations. And so women are being othered in a way that, well, it's your fault. And then you've got people who have autism, and it's a disease that's being caused by something. So we're moving further away from understanding how people who have a different process, a different way of working, different understanding of the world, how they work. And so it's like giving people in America and across the world who don't want to understand people who aren't neurotypical, who don't want to understand them and don't want to give them the time, and like in the workplace, it's very important that we understand people who don't work like a neurotypical person, and they work differently. They're very valuable in the workplace, and we need them, and they can be very valuable for companies. But this now again is pushing them further away from, living a life to their full potential.
Yes, exactly. It's just trying to victimize people who are neurodiverse and push them out of the workplace, make them so just like make them a figure to be blamed.
Yeah, to be ridiculed, to be blamed, and it's like, well, these brown people are to blame for you not having a job, and these people have autism, so like, and it's their mother's fault. I mean, I don't want to say anything about Donald Trump, but there's definitely something about the process and the way his brain works that is different to everybody else, in that, like, he doesn't know what the truth is. I mean, is that a condition caused by something that a mother can take during pregnancy?
I'm not entirely sure, but if we were talking about brain use among the two, RFK Jr. is quite interesting as an example, because he's on record and there is medical diagnosis for him having half of his brain, I think it's about half of his brain eaten by a tapeworm.
A tapeworm, yeah.
And
it was a party trick.
Yeah.
He was like, watch! He was crazy as a young man. He said, I'm going to put this tapeworm in my ear, it's going to eat half my brain, and then he downed a keg of beer. I think that's what happened.
Can't remember exactly, but there is also stuff, if you read...
Look, if they're going to tell lies, I'm going to tell lies. Sorry, go on.
If you read through autobiographies by the other Kennedy family members, his mistreatment of animals has been quite frequent throughout his life. There's several cases where he would take roadkill from the side of the road and then eat it.
Yeah, and delicious.
And at one point abandoning a bear in a state national park because he decided that he wanted to take it home, but had to go to a private function in Washington and was unable to take it home.
So he was on his way home with the bear he'd stolen from a park, and then he went, oh, shit.
No, so he found it on the side of the road and then abandoned it in a park. And that's now...
Was it a dead bear?
Oh, yeah, it was dead.
So he picked up a dead bear. He's thinking, I'll have dead bear for dinner. Had it in the car.
Well, he's quoted as saying experiments. So one can assume. Alongside that,
what was his mother taking when she was pregnant?
I don't know. The Kennedys are a weird family.
We need to look into that.
But also, like, anecdotally, there's a quote from one of his friends that at some point they were driving, a whale washed up on a beach. So they drove to pick up this whale, cut off the whale's head, strapped it to the roof of the car, and then had to have like plastic bags over their heads as they're driving back, because every time they braked, the whale juices would like go forward, drip down, and go over the guy who is now Secretary of Health and Human Services, who is saying that.
This is the head of health.
Yes.
In America. Yep. Possibly one of the most important jobs.
Arguably, yes. Definitely.
America. And this guy...
And this, yes.
He had a whale strapped to his roof. He'd cut the head off the whale, and then they had to put plastic bags over the head because the whale juice was dripping down through the car into their heads, which he didn't foresee because he only has half a brain, which was eaten by a tapeworm, which he brought home and then kept as a pet.
I'm not entirely sure if the tapeworm was involved at that point.
Okay.
This is the same guy, yes.
So the tapeworm isn't part of the roadkill story?
Tapeworm comes...
I don't think you'd notice.
No. Nah. But anyway, like...
So this guy, so this is all coming from him?
Yes.
Pretty much.
All coming from him and Trump, and it is effectively a smokescreen. And so like clockwork, we're seeing these conspiracies return of medications causing autism, and they resurface every few years like a recycled rumor or a certain orange president. But if these wild claims are the conspiracy theorists' spark, then the Swedish sibling study is the fire extinguisher. So published in 2024 and encompassing over 2.4 million children, it's one of the largest and most comprehensive investigations into the supposed causal link between medication use and autism. Researchers found a very slight increase, mere statistical thus, in autism and ADHD diagnoses among children whose mothers used paracetamol during their pregnancy term. But when they analyzed siblings, children raised in the same household, with the same genetics and same socioeconomic surroundings, the link vanished like mist in the morning light. No causation, no correlation, no conspiracy. The study concluded that any previous associations were likely the result of familial confounding, that is, shared environmental or genetic factors, not the medication itself. Okay. So it's like, if your sibling has autism, you might be more predisposed.
But that's just more to do with like, it's just you're brought up in the same, by the same, same people gave birth to you and they had the same. It's the idea that, okay, so the way I look at autism is, if the seas started to rise and we needed to spend more time, say, in the water, like there's a big city community in Indonesia, right? And they spend a lot of time in the water, and they've built like their homes on stilts, and they dive for their fish or whatever. So one of those guys, one of those fishermen can hold their breath for 10 to 11 minutes. He has to. He's developed this ability to hold his breath. Now, if you or I went and hung out with him, we could dive with him for about a minute maybe, and then we'd be gasping for breath, right? This guy can hold his breath for 10. That's called evolution. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Human evolution. So autism is an evolution where the brain is figuring out different ways of being in an environment some say some of it is, I mean, we use the word trauma related in that, like, but it's not, it's just like, it's genetic in that your parents have been through this, your grandparents have been through this, you have experience. Suddenly this child comes out and they've got a brain that works differently and they don't actually do this and they don't make eye contact, they don't whatever. And that has been called autism. It's just an evolution.
Yeah, it's generational trauma.
Literally just an evolution.
There is some like studies that's been done into generational trauma, like so how people who had previously been enslaved in their ancestry have now more predisposed to depression, etc. Stuff like that.
ADHD as well. They're saying is the human brain and body developing a way of being in the world that they have experience of as being bad.
Yeah, it's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, nuance like this, like that we're talking about now, doesn't go viral. So while scientists are conducting actual science,
do you think as many people will see us talking about this as heard Trump saying that it's
no, because
women taking paracetamol?
Inherently more viral platform. But the good thing about it is that as he's made this mass sweeping statement, you're having researchers from around the world coming and saying, no, you're wrong. The sad thing is that it's distracting from other more politically pressing matters. The Epstein files, for example, Trump stars on Gaza, etc. Like these are all issues that our focus should be on, but instead it's a smokescreen, and it's very common for political figures to just put out something false because then the news media has to respond. Because if we don't respond, then we're not doing our jobs and being that fourth wall and saying, no, you need to actually focus back on the issues. This guy is wrong. Women should and can take paracetamol during the time of their pregnancies.
Okay, good. What next? Anything else? Is that it? Have we got to the bottom of it? Have we solved it yet?
No, we've not solved it yet. But like to lend a little bit of precedence to Trump, you are seeing the CDC reporting more children being diagnosed with autism, particularly Black, Hispanic, and low-income children. But that's more children being diagnosed because our screening processes are better. This isn't a sign of an epidemic. It's a sign of progress. It's a sign that the systems we've long used to overlook people, to minoritize people, might actually finally maybe starting to see them. And hopefully now that we can see them, we can help them instead of victimizing them.
So, I mean, that's your speciality, isn't it? So you could
definitely
go out and speak to people who have been affected by these statements by someone like Mr. Trump and get their side of the story.
Definitely. It's something I can definitely look into, because at the end of the day, autistic people are still people, and he is victimizing them, and that is absolutely wrong.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you in a sec, but in the meantime, so Trump has also, this is just out now, he's also found a cure for a couple of other things. It's something that is coming to the market now. Let's just have a look to this.
Do you suffer from the shame of being left-handed?
Yes, I do.
Yes, science tells us it's not a disease, but what does science know?
Yes.
It's out now. Trump's fantastic elixir. It'll make you right-handed in no time. Write checks, salute the flag, even shake hands the proper way. We'll put you on the right side of history.
I used to be left-handed. Now I can't stop pointing at things with my right hand. Look at that.
But that's not all.
Look at that.
Also cures teenagers.
I tried it. Now my son just stares blankly at the wall, which frankly is an improvement.
Freaks who don't like Coldplay.
I used to hate Coldplay. Now I've seen them live 7 times.
Look at that.
That's Trump's fantastic elixir. Why accept you for who you are when we could be making money out of your insecurities?
Trump's fantastic elixir. It's fantastic. And I would say this even if I didn't have a gun pointed to my head. For sure I would. Thank you, Trump's fantastic elixir, fabulous elixir of oil, cure-all. Thank you, Trump's cure-all elixir of fantasticness.
Kind of got a bit weird at the end there, didn't it? So he seems to have everything nailed, really, when it comes to cure and stuff.
Yeah, it's an obsession with blame, an obsession with cure, an obsession with cause. For whatever reason, they've picked autism as their thing for the month, where they just want to go out and cure it. And as you're saying, they want to cure being left-handed, apparently, so that we can all be far more right, which is definitely going to be great for the world.
Yeah, I mean, you want people shaking hands the proper way, and, you want to be on the right side of history as well. I mean, the nuns and the priests back in my day when I was in school, they said that left-handed people were the devil. If you wrote with your left hand, you were writing, it was the devil in you writing on your behalf, which is kind of cool. That's why a lot of my contemporaries end up listening to heavy metal music.
Nice. Well, my sister is left-handed, so understandably why she was.
Was she difficult growing up?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
I've always got loads of respect for her. She's the doctor at the moment, so might be a devil doctor. Who knows, but.
I know, exactly. We need Trump to look at her. So that was excellent. Is that your first full report done? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the first full report done for MOTH, and I'm really excited of being able to do it. I'm very much looking forward to more in the future.
Brilliant. That was really good. Tell us what you think. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, why do you think Trump might be working so hard to deflect from the Epstein files? Is that just like a little joke you made, or do you?
Well, if you look at the stuff that's come out, where he's got the postcard, which is definitely not his signature, which is definitely his signature. Most of the people that support Trump don't really want to support a pedophile. If you look at like prison environments, for example, pedophiles are often killed in prisons. It's inherently a bad thing, and it should be to be a pedophile. So it's hopefully going to destroy his political power base. If these files do come out, and it reveals what many already suspect, but we can't say it conclusively for reasons of not being sued. So, allegedly, Trump has associated with the Epstein.
What you don't want to do is get fired on your first day.
No, that would be bad.
No, that would be really bad. So we watched that one with interest. Other things that you're looking at, you're interested in looking at is the whole medical world, and how it is all geared toward medical misogyny is something you're going to look at. So tell me a little bit about medical misogyny, and then I'll let you go. Sorry. Yeah.
So medical misogyny, in its essence, is that if you look through the gender pain index, for example, women's pain isn't being taken as seriously as men's, and there's as it can be
paracetamol,
because
it causes autism.
Yeah.
You need to stop taking painkiller and like suffer. Yeah, because like, you know, obviously us men, we understand pain. So, you know, when you're 9 months pregnant, you need to like suck it up like we would.
And there's no actual like measure of pain index to my knowledge. It's kind of just each to their own.
Yeah.
But it's aspects where women's pain isn't being taken more seriously, especially like endometriosis, for example.
Yeah.
It's a debilitating condition that many women suffer from. But
endometriosis has by a lot of doctors they don't even
not a lot of people
treat it at all. It is a bit like, well, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have this really bad fucking pain for a week every month, maybe longer.
Often longer. Yeah. People just aren't having the treatment that they need, that they deserve.
And it turns out that it actually can be treated quite, you know, it can be treated. If men were turning up at doctor surgeries going, I feel like I've been kicked in the balls by a bull, they would find a cure for it very quickly.
I agree. Yeah, there'll be way more focus, but with how complex the system is, to my knowledge, there just hasn't been enough research in that area.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of people are afraid to do research in that
because
area.
all of the research is done by men for men. Would that be fair to say?
More often than not, yes. Yeah. There's very little.
So if we look at things like how seatbelts are designed with men, you know, crash test dummies are male anatomy. Seatbelts don't, you know, if you have boobs, you don't know where the seatbelt goes because they haven't been designed with women in mind. And you look at CPR dummies.
Going into CPR dummies, there's anecdotal evidence at the moment. I'm currently looking into it that they're predominantly flat-chested dummies are being used for CPR, and that may or may not lead to an increased mortality rate in women. It might be more likely that's because women present more atypically with heart attack symptoms. But again, what that means is that when doctors are going through their medical education, more focus is being placed on a man having a heart attack rather than the atypical presentations in women. I'm hoping to speak to some doctors about this and get their views. But the CPR story in itself, yes, the anatomy functions the same. You need to be doing the chest compressions, but more often than not, especially if a defibrillator is involved. I don't know if you know this, but like if a woman's wearing a bra,
a wire bra,
a wire bra, you have to remove that. Lots of people don't. Otherwise, it can lead to like permanent scarring because it's a piece of metal. So you have to remove that. And making people more comfortable around the idea of doing CPR and chest compressions on women and who are like make up 50% of the population. And we don't spend enough time on that side of education. Yeah,
absolutely. And I would say to any men, Donald Trump, if you're watching this, will you make sure that they're actually having a heart attack before you take the bra off?
Yes, that would definitely be helpful.
Mm.
But you'd have to actually be able to observe the signs, which currently
We don't know what the signs are because we mostly looked at men.
Well, we know what the signs are. They're just not taught as much because
Yeah.
they're atypical presentations. But I'll be happy to get more about that next
Yes,
week.
please do. Yes, if you can come back in 5 minutes with all of that information, that'd be great. Oscar, thank you very much. Well done.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent. That was we did awkward handshake. I went to go like this.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Oscar.
No
Right,
worries.
okay. I'm going to these new things that I'm going to play as like a little sting sponsor. We got a sponsor of the show. It's lovely.
Brought to you by Trump's fantastic elixir, the cure that makes you think getting Viva La Vida tattooed on your lower back is a fantastic idea.
It's all good. It's all. Just won't leave. Just won't leave.
Yeah, perfect. That's all good.
That was good. Thank you very much, Oscar. Now we have some breaking news as we are coming to air with the Kneecap Terrorists, the band Kneecap. Apparently they're not terrorists. This morning in London, a judge has thrown out the terrorism case against Liam Og Onedig, better known as Makara, one of the 3 members of the Irish language rap group Kneecap. Makara had been charged under the UK Terrorism Act after allegedly displaying a Hezbollah flag during a London concert last November. Prosecutors argued that the act could suggest support for proscribed organisation. But in court today, Judge Paul Goldspring ruled that the charge was filed too late and in the wrong way. So, I mean, I don't really care about the UK taxpayers' money, but also I do kind of like it. It should never have been in court in the first place. So he said that the charge was filed too late and in the wrong way. You're talking about one of the most high-profile cases involving, you know, an Irish pop act. Basically the establishment, so the UK courts, bringing them to court because of their support of Hezbollah, and it was filed too late. Like surely that's basic stuff. It was also filed in the wrong way. The case was described as unlawful, null, and outside the court's jurisdiction. In other words, it collapsed on a procedural technicality. Supporters in the public gallery reportedly cheered when the decision was announced. They'll probably all get arrested now. Outside campaigners framed the case as an attack on freedom of expression and another example of political policing against outspoken artists. Kneecap themselves have consistently denied any link to Hezbollah or Hamas. They say the flag in question was thrown onto stage and the whole thing was misinterpreted. The group has been known for politically provocative lyrics, strong pro-Palestinian stances and criticism of the British government. This is not the first time they have clashed with authorities. Last year, the UK government tried to block public arts funding for the group on political grounds. So you see here, there's a sort of a pattern. So like we had the UK government effectively taken to court for supporting a terrorist organization, but they messed it up themselves by doing it too late and in the wrong way. And last year, the same UK government tried to block public arts funding for the group on political grounds. So it seems like things that Kneecap are saying about the British establishment are rubbing the British establishment up the wrong way. I mean, why? They're not afraid to call out things that happened in the north of the country during the 70s, during the 80s, the Troubles, what might have been reported as official, the fact that the British Army had to move into the north of Ireland to separate the Catholics and the Protestants from each other because they were going at it, hammer and tongs. They weren't actually going at each other. They were living peacefully side by side until the British Army moved in as a peacekeeping force to keep the peace from the people who were already at peace and living side by side, until aided and abetted by the British Army, groups started to, as we saw in the north recently, burn people out of their homes. So Protestants that were living beside Catholics, those Catholics were burned out and told to move over there to a Catholic area. And then we had to further keep the peace from these people that were kind of okay living beside each other, they built a wall between the two communities. Now, if anything, if anything says there's going to be a war and these people are not going to get on, is build a wall between them. We see it in Palestine and Israel and Jerusalem. There's just a massive wall. People lived with their, I live here, my neighbor lives over there. You wake up one morning, there's a massive wall running down the middle of the road. You can't visit your neighbor anymore, because to visit your neighbor on the other side of the wall, you've got to go to passport. And the passport queue takes 4 hours. So basically, and the same happened in the north. The peacekeeping force that was the British Army decided to build a wall to keep the people apart, because they hated each other so much. Anyway, this is the type of stuff that is being talked about, is out there. Now it seems that certain bombs that went off may not have been planted by the people that we said planted the bombs. All these questions are coming out, and somebody's not happy. So what happens, and this is very important, we look at that. Maybe you're not a fan of Kneecap, maybe you're not a fan of their music, but it's very important that you look at what happens, whether you're in Ireland or the UK, what happens when you speak out against an establishment, when you speak out against a government, what happens? They were taken to court. This is their 3rd day in court. You look at this and go, well, that's a waste of money. Should they filed it late? Should they didn't even file it properly? They don't care that they filed it late. They don't care that they didn't file it properly. They want to disrupt the lives of the members of Kneecap. So when people speak out against an establishment, when they speak out against a government, and the government don't like that, they will make your life difficult. And that's what's happening. And that's what happens when we look at that, and we look at that as a story, and we look at what happened with the funding that they were supposed to get, and the government held that back. Now, the government probably knew that they would have to give the funding to them eventually, but they just made it difficult for them to get it. We're going to make your life, you're going to speak out against us, we're going to make your life very difficult. We're going to have you in court 3 times. That will probably disrupt your tour in some way. They were cancelled in Canada because of this, their tour, because Canada were like, oh, it must be bad. The UK government are taking them to court. So they got all their gigs. They're not allowed to go into Canada. I mean, who wants to go into Canada, right? They're not allowed to go into Canada. A blessing, if you ask me. But there's some sound people in Canada, mostly up the north. So this is affecting their ability to do business. This is affecting their ability to make their music. This is affecting their ability to reach the people that like their music and then do their job, basically. And what happened when the UK had to give them the funding that they were promised and they should have gotten? When they got that funding, I think it might have been 60 grand or whatever it is. What did they do with the money? They spent it all on drugs. No. They took half the money and they gave it to the Protestants, the enemy side of, that community. Yeah. And they took half the money and they gave it to the Catholic community. Because both of these communities, especially young people, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to education, are severely underfunded. They're severely underfunded. The UK government don't want to do anything about it. The north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, is part of the UK. But they've been abandoned, severely underfunded. So what did Kneecap do? They gave them money to help them with education, with sport, with opportunities. There's 30 grand, there's 30 grand to the 2 warring communities. So it's important that we look at what's happened here and what Kneecap are representing and what the UK government in this instance. And I'm just talking about the establishment. I have a problem with people in the UK. Most of them are really sound. Most of them. Same percentage of Irish people are really sound. But it's the establishment. And when you have a pop at the establishment, they will make your life difficult. They'll find ways of, making your life difficult. I had a friend who was a councillor in Kildare, and she started asking for more transparency with the council meetings. This is just a local Kildare County Council thing. She wanted cameras in the chambers when they were making decisions. People didn't like that. She spoke out about, how did this person get planning permission? How did this company get the job to build this school and this school and this school? How did this happen? And what happened to this person? I mean, she has since left the job because she thought she could change things. What happened to her in the immediate aftermath while she was speaking out? She found she kept getting pulled over by Gardaí just to check their, she had her tax and license and everything was fine. This is not conspiracy stuff, by the way. This is stuff that happened. She just got pulled over for, just to check her tax and insurance, which are always fine. She also got audited by the taxman. Something, and I shit you not, something like she hadn't been audited by the taxman ever. And suddenly she got audited by the taxman something like 3 times in 3 years. So every year she was audited by the taxman. And not only would they, but they kept asking questions. I mean, everything was above board, but they kept going, oh, what's this and what's this and what's this? They have ways of making your life difficult. And it comes back to something that we speak about here on this show, which is the whistleblowers. So Irish people have, and we've been given this view of whistleblowers as they're difficult people. They're hard to work with. They cause problems. Whistleblowers are and have been portrayed as bad people in the mainstream media by your local government, by the political parties who are in charge of the country, because they cause problems. And you see with certain, you can look into this, I don't want to get into it because I don't have the details to hand, but if you look at certain people who have spoken out about Tusla, certain stories have appeared in the papers about these men that it turned out to be false. These people don't care that they're making up stories about whether this guy is, was involved in some sort of sexual assault at some point or whatever. That appears in the paper. People don't forget that. It doesn't matter whether the paper then comes back a year later and redacts it or, apologize or whatever. They put that stuff out in the paper. They want to make that person look bad. We need to look at and reframe how we think of whistleblowers in Ireland because it's really important. So the next time you see somebody speaking up about something, an organization, the company they work for, how it was to work for the An Garda Síochána, how it was to be, working in the government, local council, whatever. When you see somebody speaking up about that and then, it looks like it's delivered as negative news, just think again, because this is not helpful to, those who want to run the country a certain way. So I just think it's very important. The critics of today's dismissal, going back to the kneecap story, say the outcome sidesteps the real question: was displaying the flag a legitimate act of protest or an unlawful act of support? By falling apart on procedural grounds, the ruling avoids that bigger debate. The debate was never, it's not a debate, and like, this is not helpful. This was a delay, a tactic just to make life difficult for the band Kneecap and for the artist Makara. For Kneecap, though, the immediate pressure is lifted. Makara leaves court free, of course he does, and the band can continue to perform without this charge hanging over them. I mean, I don't understand how mainstream media don't just talk about what actually is happening here. Like, they're still talking about it like it's a serious thing, like it's a serious case. Anyway, for supporters, this case symbolised the wider battle over art, dissent and free expression in Ireland and the UK. For opponents, it raised questions about whether artists should be able to use political symbols linked to militant groups without consequences. So while the case is over for now, the wider argument about art, politics and policing speech is likely to run on. And as always with Kneecap, the controversy will probably fuel their profile, not diminish. And that's the great thing about this band, is that they've grown exponentially because of this attention. And that's how it works. So maybe Kneecap are the establishment. Shit, I never thought about that. And they're making life difficult for the legal system in the UK. My God. The other thing is, there's a couple of things on the back of this. If we look at Catherine Connolly, who's running for presidency in Ireland, she had made some remarks about Hamas, which has been thrown back at her now that she's running for president. I don't want to get into the details about what those are, but that's a way of her opponents of tarnishing her reputation and possibly becoming the rightful president of Ireland. I don't have a, I'm not we're not going to take sides when it comes to the presidential race. We're just going to, but you can see how something like a statement made about Hamas, and similarly, politicians in the past have made statements about the IRA and support them, and that, we don't, it seems the mainstream media don't have the intelligence to see beyond that, and they're very happy to use those as, because because the British Army aren't a terrorist organization. When they kill people, they do it in the name of God and the Crown. But when an Irish person in a pair of jeans and a green jumper, as a member of the IRA kills somebody, then they're a terrorist. So that's the difference. Very important. The real armies don't wear jeans. So if somebody kills you with a gun and they've got a uniform on, they're a real army. You've been killed by a legitimate army. If somebody with a gun and a pair of jeans on kills you, if they're possibly wearing Doc Martens as well, you've been killed by a terrorist. Really important to know that when you're killed. So look, it's it's very interesting. I think the kneecap thing is very interesting. I think they will make hay out of it, and they will do well out of it, and they will continue to talk about, the facts and talk about what's happening in Palestine and speak up against, genocide, and rattle the establishment, and that's good. So that's it, really. That's all for now. We were supposed to be joined by Al, but I believe it looks like he's been delayed in a meeting somewhere, as always. So we will have to talk to him again. He did say he might be running late. Anyway, thank you very much to Oscar, who joined us. An excellent debut performance. We get a round of applause for Oscar from the studio audience. Excellent debut performance. We will be back next week. Don't forget, on Tuesday night, I will be speaking to Harvey's parents. So Harvey, we spoke about earlier in the show. I will speak to his mum and dad about the meeting they're going to have with the Taoiseach. They're going to meet with Simon Harris. See the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach right now? It's hard to know because they flip between the two. There's some sort of rotating Taoiseach thing going on. So they're going to meet with Simon Harris. They're also going to meet with presidential campaign Catherine Connolly on Monday, and hopefully keep Harvey's story alive. We will be interviewing them exclusively here on MOTH Live on Tuesday night. So watch this one with interest. And that's really it. I will leave you with this again, because a lot of fans of the show are calling for this to be played again. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Do you suffer from the shame of being left-handed?
Yes, I do.
Yes, science tells us it's not a disease, but what does science know?
Yes.
It's out now. Trump's fantastic elixir. It'll make you right-handed in no time. Write checks, salute the flag, even shake hands the proper way. We'll put you on the right side of history.
I used to be left-handed. Now I can't stop pointing at things with my right hand. Look at that.
But that's not all.
Look at that.
Also cures teenagers.
I tried it. Now my son just stares blankly at the wall, which frankly is an improvement.
Freaks who don't like Coldplay.
I used to hate Coldplay. Now I've seen them live 7 times.
Look at that.
That's Trump's fantastic elixir. Why accept you for who you are when we could be making money out of your insecurities?
Trump's fantastic elixir. It's fantastic, and I would say this even if I didn't have a gun pointed to my head. For sure I would. Thank you, Trump's fantastic elixir, fabulous elixir of oil, cure-all. Thank you, Trump's cure-all elixir of fantasticness.
I don't really think we needed that guy at the end there, didn't we? Yes, everything in the world is fine. Don't worry about it. If you want to follow us, we're on X at _moth_news, Instagram moth_news, and we're on YouTube at moth_news. You can definitely find us. We're definitely places. We'll speak to you next week. Thanks very much to our sponsors. It's great to get a bit of money in, and of course, a cure for left-handedness.
Sponsored by Trump's fantastic elixir, proven to make you weep uncontrollably during Fix You, because it's your song.